my name is Allison Seidel, and I'm here to give you a very general, brief orientation on using the new Hitachi Starboard that you'll find in your classrooms. First, when you come into the classroom, you'll want to log into the instructor PC using either your network ID or the student ID with the student password, and then hit the monitor that has the power button to start up your room. It's just the green button that says Start Up Room, and that gives power to the projector above. Once you've logged in and you're at your desktop, you should see an icon on the desktop that looks like the Starboard software. It may be on the desktop or down here on your taskbar. To launch the software, you simply double-click the icon. Before the software even loads, you get a menu that asks you whether you want to open an existing document or create a new one. In this case, we want to create new. What that does is bring us up to this basic white sheet of paper. So this is replacing the old-fashioned write-on whiteboards. What you're seeing right now are the default settings for the Starboard. So any classroom that you're using will have the same settings and the buttons will all be in the same place. First, you'll notice that there's a floating menu. And this menu can be moved around wherever you want, wherever you feel comfortable using it. You'll also notice that there's a little caddy over here that holds a stylus with the ability to expand. This is really helpful for annotating if you are someone like me who's rather height challenged. It does help you reach the top of the screen, and you'll see me annotating today with not only the stylus but also my finger. You'll notice on the top here are some drop-down menus. You'll also notice there's a status bar up here in the right-hand corner. You'll notice a series of tabs along the side here. And you'll also notice a whole bunch of buttons that are on the physical board here on the right. And they also repeat on the left. On the bottom, you'll notice that we have a properties box for the tools that we're going to be using. And then you also have a scroll bar. And we'll talk about each one of these. First, you'll notice that this little blue arrow on the left-hand side basically will move the tabs that we saw on the right. So now the 5 tabs are over here on the left. And if I choose to have them on the right, I can just use that arrow to move it to either side. I prefer to have them on the left because I'm right-handed. You might be different. Today what I'm going to show you is just enough to get you using the Starboard. We want you to be able to feel comfortable to at least launch the whiteboard and annotate with a simple tool. After you get more comfortable using the simple tool, then you'll be graduating to more and more exciting features of the Starboard software. But this is enough to just get you started. By default, you'll notice that we're on page 1 of a one-page document. So as soon as you launch the software, it opens up to a blank white sheet. Also by default, the normal pen is the one that will be selected. I can tell that I'm using the normal pen because it's pushed in and it's also yellow in color, and it also has the icon up here in my status bar. So right now I'm using the normal pen and I'm on page 1 of a one-page document. There are several ways that you can change the color of your pen. The first way you can do it is to physically use the buttons on the board here. So if I wanted my pen to be black, I can choose black, and I can go ahead and annotate, and it will appear in black. If I wanted to choose red, or blue, or green, I can do that as well. The pink one is actually a highlighter, so if I wanted to highlight over something, I can change the color of the pen over here on the left. These buttons also appear on the right. Now that's just a limitation of the basic colors that are available in the normal pen, and I'm going to show you what else it can do. But before I do that, I want to show you that the reason we want to have the electronic whiteboard versus the physical whiteboard is that we have to erase the physical whiteboard. With the electronic version, we can keep all of our annotations. We can continue to use them to build a presentation that you can use for your teaching, or you can capture notes and send them to a student via email or even post them to your Blackboard shell. The Rather than erasing, one of the things that I can do is take the back of palm of my hand and simply advance the screen. So really my annotation is not taken away or erased, it's just out of the way so that I can continue to annotate. And each time I use the palm of my hand, I can advance the screen up to get more white space. With the normal pen, you can also use 2 points of contact to activate the eraser tool. So if I use 2 points of contact, now my annotation is no longer annotating, rather I am erasing. Do be careful that you spread your fingers apart though, because if I do 2 points of contact together, it's actually thinking I'm annotating. So it's important to do the peace sign. Another way that you can create more white space is to create a new page. We know that we're right now on page 1 of a one-page document, but if I wanted to insert a new page, I can use the button that's right here on the toolbar, and it looks like 2 little boxes with a down pointing arrow. If I press that and watch my status bar, I've now inserted a new page, and I'm on page 2 of a 2-page document. So basically I have more white space. Another way that I can change the color of my normal pen is to use the properties box at the bottom here. You'll notice that when I click on the down arrow, I have an option to change the color of my pen. We've also learned that we can change the color of the pen by using the buttons on the board. But really, those 2 properties are pretty limited. Rather, if you use the Properties tab, you actually get a lot more options on just the normal pen. You'll notice on the top in the Properties box that there are 6 little tabs up here. The first tab is basically a normal type of annotation pen. So when I annotate, whether I use the stylus or my finger, I'm going to be using the normal pen. And I can, of course, change the colors. And as you can see, we have a lot more color options than we do physically on the board. Down at the bottom, under the color palette, is a small, medium, large button that actually creates the width of your annotation tool. So right now I'm on the smallest setting. If I choose the medium, I get a medium annotation size. Or if I want even a larger one, I can use a larger one. If that's not enough options for you, there is a slide rule here that you can find somewhere in between. I'm going to go ahead and make some more white space because I want to show you that also in the normal pen on the second tab, I have another type of tool that allows me to highlight. So if I go back to the regular pen and I have some annotation and I go back to the highlighter, I can now highlight on top of what is annotated underneath. Again, you have the full color palette of the highlight colors and the small, medium, large options. The third tab has the option and color palette for some tools that have an outline. Just another way to annotate in more color options. It also has a small, medium, large, and this drop down here allows you to change the type of line, and I'm not seeming to get it, so I know why, it's because I have this tool. So I'm going to go back to the normal pen and show you that there are some options here on this pen. So let's say I wanted a dotted line. I could do a dotted line. The fourth tab is a shadowing type of annotator. As soon as I stop annotating for about 3 seconds, it actually brings attention to that annotation. Gives it a shadow effect. The fifth tab is a painter option. And there's several built-in paint brushes that you can choose here. Again, you have the choice to do your small, medium, and large. And again, lots of options. And lastly, the last tab here is a wallpaper type of pen, which allows you to block out something you've annotated, but there's just a lot of really different color options or artist options here. So already with just using one tool, we really have a lot of options to create our presentation. If you feel overwhelmed, just remember that when you come into the classroom, the normal pen will be selected, and also by default, the normal pen will be in black. So if it's just all you want to do is write, you can do so. Oops, I got to change this back to solid line. This would be the default. And it would also be on the small setting. So that's enough to get you started. Let's talk about some other features. These tabs that I moved from left to right are toggles. So if I want to turn the properties on, I just press the tab. If I want to turn them off, I just press them a second time. Sometimes when you're annotating, I'm going to just insert another page. Sometimes when you're annotating, you might see that when exactly where you're annotating does not line up with where your finger is touching the board. If that happens, a very simple procedure that you can do to at least test it first is to recalibrate the Starboard. It's very simple to do. It's all you're going to do is go to Settings, and Starboard, and Calibrate. This is also an option right when you start the Starboard. Before you click on New or Open, there's an option that says Calibrate. So if you wanted to do it each time you come into your classroom before you start your lecture, it might be a good habit to get into. A lot of times different users are using the classroom before us, and they might have different touch and feel and height, and that stuff does make a difference. So once I activate Calibrate, it's going to ask me to confirm that. And then I'm going to have a series of 9 target points. I can use my stylus or my finger to align each one of these boxes. And basically what I'm doing is recognizing me as a user to this particular Starboard. When I'm done, I'm going to click OK, and I'm back to my Starboard whiteboard. Now I should be able to annotate, and hopefully that's aligned where my finger is actually touching the screen. Sometimes you might want to see the view. The View tab, which again is a toggle, allows you to change your view. So, for example, you'll see that all these tools are turned on. I have the drop-down menu toolbar turned on, and these are all the default settings. If you choose you don't like the menu bar, you can turn it off. You'll see that it now disappears, but that might get you into trouble if you're familiar with using those. So these features are already turned on to begin with by default, but you do have the option to turn them off. I'm going to go to the Documents tab. The Document tab allows you to view your entire presentation. I now know that I have 3 pages. I can see that at my status bar here, but I can also tell by going to the Documents tab. And if I wanted to switch pages, I could simply double-click. If I wanted to go back to page 2, I just can double-click and it takes me back to page 2. I'm going to turn that document view off because I want to show you that you can also use this left and right pointing arrow that's on the board, and that will take you to the previous page and also the next page. So there's really different ways that you can navigate between your pages by using the View tab or the previous and next button. If I go to the View tab, I'd like you to just look at this little box up here. You'll notice that there's a little black box with sort of dancing ants up in the big long white sheet. That white part represents the entire page that you have. That's how big it is. And if you keep advancing your screen, eventually you're going to run out of room. So that's when you'd want to create a new page or insert a new page. Watch this little black box as I move the scroll bars. You'll notice that that little black box moves as and navigate through the page. And you'll notice that not only does it go up and down, but I can also move from left to right. So this box indicates what portion of this large white area that I'm actually viewing right now. You can change the size of that box. You can make it little or bigger. It's completely up to you. I would suggest that you leave it at the default because that's the way it's going to be when you're in each classroom. So that's the View tab. We learned back when we were playing with our annotation that we can use 2 points of contact and that will become an eraser. If you would rather erase with 1 point of contact, simply turn on the eraser tool. You'll notice that when I do that, the eraser tool is yellow or active, and I can also tell by looking at my status bar that I'm now using the eraser tool. So now really 1 point of contact will become an eraser. And the properties for the eraser tool can be found down here, or I can use the properties box. So really I have some limitations with the eraser, but if I wanted to make it wider, I could change that property, and now my eraser is a wider option. Now typically our brains tell us, okay, now I'm ready to begin annotating again. So my thought is to go right to the board and start annotating. But I cannot do that until I have an active annotation tool. Right now I'm still on the eraser. So I need to remember to switch back to an annotation type of tool, such as the normal pen. And now I'll begin to annotate again. It's important to remember to come in at a 90-degree angle. If you kind of slack your hand, it might accidentally think that you're doing 2 points of contact and it won't work for you. So try to remember coming in at a 90-degree angle. Again, you can use either your finger, or you can use a stylus or any other object as long as it's not a marker. Whatever it is that you like to annotate. It's also going to recognize whether you do printing or cursive. So it's up to you. So far, this is just the normal pen, and we really have quite a few options. Let's just review a little bit. We learned that when we turn on the software by using the icon on the desktop, it opens up to page 1 of a one-page document. It also opens up to the normal pen. So by default, I can go ahead and start using the normal pen in black. If I want to change the color of my pen, I can either use the properties at the bottom, or I can use the properties tab. And this is where I have options with all different kinds of pens, and I can change the color. I can also change the color by using the physical buttons on the board, but with limitations, as I only have a couple of options. And the pink one, by the way, is a highlighter. So they're conveniently located both on the left and the right-hand side of the board. I'm going to insert a new page and talk about the gallery. The gallery tab is full of a whole bunch of different graphics that you can use in your presentation. So for example, if I'm working on geography and maybe I want to do maps, and I'm going to just scroll down here, whoops, and maybe I'm working with particularly on Europe. There are some preloaded maps in here, and you can see there's a whole bunch of different countries listed here, and some of them don't have any. Here's a world map. So let's say that I want to use this object. What I simply do is grab it and drag it onto my white space. And that I simply did by using the gallery. So now, if I want to move this menu out of the way, I could turn on a normal pen or an annotation tool, and I can have the option to go ahead and highlight things, or maybe if I want to write on here, I can write. This is a great opportunity to get your students out of their chairs to help interact. I'm going to insert another new page. Another thing that you can do with gallery, let's just say, for example, that the object that I choose is maybe too small. Let's see here. Let's do flags. So if I bring this object over, you'll see that this object is really quite small. So I want to be able to enlarge it so that folks in the back of the room can see it. I can't just go ahead and move it because right now I'm on an annotation type tool. Rather, what I want to do is select the object so that I can resize it. To select the object, you're going to use the tool on the toolbar that looks like a little arrow. And when you click on it, it says that I now have the select tool active. I now have the option to select this object. I could also select this object, but in this case I want to select the flag. And once I get the dots around it, I have the option to go ahead and resize this and move it around so that it's a lot more visible to my students. Now if I want to annotate on this object, I have to remember to switch back to an annotation tool. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by turning on the normal pen again. Maybe this time I want to use my highlighter, and I want to highlight a portion of this flag. You can also use, instead of an eraser, because if I use the eraser now, let's see what happens here. It's actually going to erase the image, and that's really not what I wanted to do. Rather, what I wanted to do was just undo what I had annotated. So, there is an undo button on your toolbar, and each time I hit the undo button, it's going to undo everything that I've done, step by step. When we go back to our document, we now are up to 6 pages. We've inserted some things, we did a lot of drawing. On this page, page 1 or 2 here, we did a lot of pushing up out of the way, so notice that it scrunched all of that information into that page. You'll want to keep that in mind if this is something that you want to reproduce. So let's just talk about saving this document. Perhaps I want to email this to my student. Maybe somebody missed class and I want to email to them. Or maybe I want to add this as part of my learning object in Blackboard. So right now, just by viewing it, we know we have 6 pages to our document and we're ready to save. So we're going to go, I'm going to shut off the document view, and we're going to go to File and Save As. Whoops. Yeah, it is. Okay. Indicative of the file name is that it does say Starboard along with the date and the time. So if you are doing a lecture multiple times in a day, you can tell which one is which. You'll notice that it also has a naming convention of .yar as an extension. That's indicative that this document was created in the Starboard software. In that example, if I were to save it as this, my students wouldn't be able to open it. So, rather what I would want to do is click on the down arrow by Save as Type, and because I want to email it, I'm going to save it as a PDF. It still has the same name for the file name, but now the extension is .pdf because it's a PDF file. So for the purpose of demonstrating today, I'm just going to put this document on my desktop. Obviously, you'd want to do this and save it to your jump drive. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this by clicking Save. And then it's saved, and we'll come back and review it. Before we do that, though, I want to save the document again, but this time I want to save it as a Starboard software document. So I'm going to do File and Save As. For the purposes of demonstrating today, I'm going to put it on my desktop, but again, you'd want to use your jump drive. And I'm going to keep it as a .yar file. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. Now if I minimize and take a look at my desktop, you'll notice that I have a PDF file and I have a Starboard file. Why would I want to have a .yar file? Hitachi has given us the licensing for all instructors, including adjuncts, to have the Hitachi Starboard on your PC. I'll be showing you where you can find the directions on how you can download the software to your PC or your laptop. This will allow you to prep your presentations prior to coming to class and or continue working or building on an existing file. So Once I have the software on my laptop or PC, I can find it on my jump drive and just open it, and it will bring me up to that document. Or, the other option we had was we saved it as a PDF. So let's take a look at that. You'll see that it automatically opened up the reader, and I'm just going to maximize this. And you'll see that it automatically saved it with 6 different pages. Now this is page 1. Remember I did a bunch of granting up space? So that's why everything is scrunched in until I created or inserted a new page. So let's take a look. This is our page 2. Again, I kept scrolling up. And this is page 3. Come on, there you go. There we go. 4. 5 is our map. 6 is our flag. Now this would be a great way to send this to a student via email, or you could put it in your your Blackboard shell. The other thing that I want to show you is that you can use the whiteboard in addition to any other software that you're using. So if you're using a PowerPoint presentation, open the PowerPoint presentation. It will have an icon on the desktop, and you can switch back in between different software. So let's just show, for example, if I wanted to switch to the internet, I can simply launch the internet. Now if I want to switch back to my whiteboard, I can do that as well. So you have the option to switch back and forth. There are a lot more bells and whistles to the Hitachi Starboard than what I've showed you today, but I'm hoping it's enough to at least get you started. If you want to just use the Starboard to broadcast your PowerPoint, you can use the wireless mouse and keyboard to annotate your slides, and you can just do that. Just be careful, because if you get too close to it, it may want to interact with you. If you go to the Blackboard shell without even logging into Blackboard, you'll notice that there's an instructor tab. It's the second tab in. By the way, if you haven't been out here, there's a ton of great information that should help you as an adjunct instructor. But what I want to show you is that if you scroll down, in the middle section here, under Teaching Toolbox, is a section that says Technology Tools and Smart Classrooms and Hitachi Starboard Software, which is the whiteboard. If I click on that, whoops, went a little bit fast there, it opens up this document that has a whole bunch of other excellent resources for you. First of all, if you want to see a short video of the new technology in the classroom, that's what this link is for. If you're in a computer lab and you want to use the Insight software, there's a video for that. And if you keep scrolling down, this is the section on the whiteboard. There is a Hitachi Starboard instructor user guide, which I would suggest printing. It has a lot of pictures. It shows you all these icons and what they mean. It does go into a little bit more than just using the normal pen, and it's really a useful resource. There's also a link to the Hitachi Starboard tutorials where you'll find other videos. They're not of me, they're actually delivered by the Starboard folks at Hitachi themselves. And there's different levels. There's level 1, 2, 3, and so on. There's also a Hitachi Starboard community, a community forum, and a resource center. Those links will help you look and see what other instructors are using, how they're using the Starboard. You can even borrow things. You can do you can search the knowledge base to see if there's particular lessons that might already exist that you can borrow. And lastly are the instructions for downloading the Starboard software to your PC or laptop. Again, I just want to show you that there's a lot of information out on that Blackboard page. You'll see all kinds of things underneath that instructor tab. They just rebuilt this page, so it is some of the stuff's been moved around if you've been out here before, but it's very helpful. I hope that this video has been helpful, at least to get you started, enough to get your feet wet in the classroom. My suggestions are, remember to come in at that 90-degree angle. That's one of the first things that you have to get used to as a user. The other thing is start simple. Start with that normal pen. It should be the one that's defaulted when you launch the software. And you can go ahead and annotate right away. Now I did switch mine to pink, so I would switch it back, but this is the default, the regular black pen. There is a lot more bells and whistles to the software, and I plan to do some more videos and possibly some other 1-hour in-person trainings. So please keep an eye on your email. We do send out advertisements to your FVTC email. Again, my name is Allison Seidel, and if you need to contact me, you can reach me at my email, which is seidela, S-E-I-D-L-A, at fvtc.edu, or you can call me by finding my number in the directory. I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you and good luck.